When it comes to Billy Napier, how do you credit? Of course, NIL has to always factor into it these days, but everybody's got money. Everybody that they're recruiting against has serious NIL offers as well. What do you credit the Billy Napier and staff's recruiting surge to?
A couple things, Mark. How that relationship building. I think Billy Napier is about as genuine as they come, down to earth as they come, and I think it took some time to build relationships. Also took time, as you said, to kind of get NIL as a factor at Florida, get everybody on the same page, from administration to boosters, all that. NIL was good. But now it's top tier there with Florida Victoria's leading the way there for NIL. But I think relationship building, and Mark, I always say the earlier in a coach's tenure, on-field results don't really matter. But the further you get along from year one, the results on the field will start mattering. So Billy Napier's only had 1 year, on the field, a 6 and 7 season. So I don't think the results are going to affect him too much until hopefully not for Florida's sake. You're putting bad records together in year 2, 3, or 4. But now I don't think that's hurt Florida too much. So I still think there is plenty to sell as far as playing time goes for the top of these guys. You're in the state of Florida, but surprisingly, a lot of their top recruits are outside of the state of Florida. So I just think it's mainly the relationship building. I think that goes a long way for Billy Napier right now, and I just think being able to sell some freshmen you played last year, like Trevor Etienne is a true freshman. Game 1 versus Utah, he's sitting there making plays. Shamar James was an all-SEC freshman, and I just think him being able to point to, hey, these are freshmen I played last year as well. You're going to get on the field if you come here at Florida. That's where this roster is at. There's plenty of opportunity at a big-time SEC program. You can come on the field and play in the brightest of stages. So I think there's still a lot to sell for Florida. And Mark, but I've always said it. Recruiters recruit. Billy Napier was known to be a recruiter. Did it get off to a little slower start than people thought? Yeah, it probably did. But I do think that recruiting mentality, that recruiting reputation that he was garnering when he got the job at Florida, that's what we're seeing.
And there could be a selling point there as well. Alabama's dominated this league for 15 years under Nick Saban. Georgia's doing it right now. That you can be on a championship team there, certainly, but you almost get lost in the factory line, the conveyor belt of everybody there. You could do something special at Florida where you still have a legendary tradition, all the resources, everything right there, like you do any other SEC power, but you could be part of that group that brings us back. And that could be appealing to a lot of players.
Absolutely, that has been a selling point, and some guys have mentioned it too. That bringing Florida back is something that something they have pointed to of joining this. So, and plus, I also think you're getting that quarterback in early. I mean, DJ Lagway, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, you got him in early in the fold. And I don't know how many direct. I mean, there are a few. But direct relationships from him, I just think, once you get that high-profile quarterback in your class and you get it in there pretty early, I think it's a trickle-down effect. Whether it be direct or indirect, I think bringing in a quarterback pretty early, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, had a huge effect on the rest of this class in Florida's big-time hot summer.
Folks, as you see on the banner, as of September 1st, no more Florida content, a Voice of College Football here on this channel. We've got an SEC channel that we've started. And again, first and foremost, you follow Dave there on Twitter and go to Gators Breakdown for the very best in Florida football coverage on a daily basis there. All right, David, let's take the extremes out. Florida has some disastrous season. They lose some recruits maybe because of it, or they take off and blow everybody away. A reasonable season you don't think is going to really factor into the relationships they've built to kind of keep this class together.
Yeah, Mark, I think that was pretty important for Billy Napier to get. I mean, this is 22 commits now with Wardell Mack committing on Monday. I think it was pretty important because, look, it's not like he's going out there and selling, hey, Florida's about to go win 10 games. And that's how he got these guys. Florida's coming off 2 6 and 7 seasons. The outlook for 2023, this coming up season, is not all that great anyway. It's not like he's selling success past or in 2023 to get these guys. So I think, as you said, if you take the extreme, okay, that probably could affect it a little bit. But, take away the extreme. I think getting these guys committed that goes a long way. Could there be some deflections? Yes, but I think getting a lot of these guys committed before the season, most of them are going to hang around. I don't think there's going to be a mass exodus of decommits there. I think where the season could come into play are some of the targets that's out there, Mark. That's where I think, if Florida goes on and wins somehow 9-10 games, then a lot of these big time targets that they're still after, they may end up in this class. Or if Florida goes out there and goes 6-7, 7-5 again, you put the class probably holds about where it is right now, and probably still, I would say, still good for probably 6-7 finish.
I think more of just I guess you get a sense of honesty. You get a sense of just a very good, well-rounded, well-trusted head coach. I mean, this is a head coach that's made relationships across like the state of Florida, Georgia. I mean, he's from Cartersville. Most of his family's, and he's had good relationships with a lot of these schools. Being back at Louisiana Lafayette, trying to recruit there, coming to Florida now. I mean, the IMG pipeline, not really a pipeline, but the IMG Academy curse has been welling off now ever since Billy Napier's gotten here. We haven't been able to recruit an IMG Academy kid for the longest until Billy Napier stepped foot at Florida. So now you're starting to see some of these IMG kids roll in here. And I mean, I tell a lot of people, I'm like, man, NIL has a lot to do with a lot of the recruiting that's going on too. Florida Victorious has done a phenomenal job of revamping that NIL and putting it more in a organized state with all the advisory board and everything else. So Florida Victorious has done really, really well also in the NIL build, but also Billy Napier has been just a hawk out there recruiting. I mean, I don't think he sleeps but 4 hours a day. I mean, you got the number 3 class. You won 6 games last year, and I'm pretty sure he's telling these kids, like, look, I just got here. Don't expect much this season or next season. I'm trying to build, and I think a lot of those kids are buying into what Billy Napier's process and what it looks like. I mean, there was a lot of things that weren't fixed when Dan Mullen was here that Billy Napier came in, fixed right away. You got the new facility now. I think a lot of things are starting to turn around for Florida, especially recruiting wise. And Florida recruits itself. It should not be hard to recruit at the University of Florida anyway, as just a premier name. And I think Billy Napier has kind of recharged that and now has the number 3 class right now, coming off just a 6-win season. And then obviously we're looking forward to this season. Hopefully we can improve that winning record here coming down the stretch with a new transfer quarterback, Graham Mertz. But yeah, man, recruiting has just been night and day. I mean, Florida's got he's got the highest recruiting class right now that Florida's ever had in a decade. So right now, if he hits 291 on 24/7 Sports, it'll be over a decade, because the last class was rated at 291. We're at 277 right now, and it was in 2013. So right now, he's already recruited past what he's supposed to for the past decade. He's already set recruiting records at Florida. So obviously, they're not done yet. There's a lot of other names that are supposed to be announcing soon that Florida's in it with. So I'm pretty pumped, man. I as I said, Florida Gator fans, they've had to deal with lackluster recruiting for the longest, and now it's starting to ramp up and starting to look like that Gator standard that we had of old.
Yeah, and there might be something exciting that can be pitched to a young man when they know that they're not going to just be the next piece in the factory line at Georgia or Alabama. That, okay, it's Florida, so we've got all the resources and all the money and everything available, but it's not been going well for a few years here, and you could be the difference. You could get in there, play right away, and you could be known for, hey, bringing it back to Florida standard.
Yeah, and I think that's what Billy Napier's pitched to these kids. I mean, if you go back, you look last year at the Utah game, he did not shy away at throwing Trevor Etienne into the fire the first game of the season, incoming freshman. And I think he's shown that he's not afraid to play freshman players if they are the best players out there on the field. That's something Dan Mullen did not do. As you know, Damian Pierce only gets 7 carries a game, which was a highway robbery if you're a Florida Gator fan, especially what he's doing in the NFL right now. But I think a lot of kids have seen that he's not afraid to throw a freshman out there and let him play, take some snaps, give it his all in a game. And I think you're starting to kind of see that more. And these kids are saying, man, what he did last year with a lot of these freshmen, I could be one of these guys out here making plays too. So I think that's kind of, you go to these schools like these Alabamas and Georgias that have stacked talent. They're going to be waiting for a while. You come to Florida, I mean, he's not going to be afraid to throw you out into the fire as a freshman, week 1, week 2, week 3. So I think a lot of that, I think it goes a long way with recruits when they see, how Trevor Etienne came in there and some of the other freshmen played last year.